Pawpaw and I went fishing. Even though he had a 30-minute drive to make in order to pick me up, I'm still positive that I got up earlier than Pawpaw did. The alarm ringing at 5:30 didn't even bother me, for it was something a whole lot better than school calling me. I was going fishing with my grandfather. A boy and his Pawpaw need to spend time together, and a fishing trip with him, being able to skip school, wasn't something I could do just any day. In the early morning house, all was quiet except for an occasional word from Mama and the clinking sound of the knife inside the mayonnaise jar. She was making our sandwiches. Every once in a while, however, a creak would arise from some dark part of the house, as if complaining about the bright kitchen light disturbing the morning. The first signs of daylight were showing when Pawpaw's headlight shone against our house. Peering out of the window, I saw the small boat attached to the back of Pawpaw's Datsun, surely loaded with fishing rods, a cane pole or two, and life jackets. The drive to Bordage's Bayou took about 10 minutes, but that morning, filled with conversation from Pawpaw about how big I was getting and how many fish we catch, it seemed like it only took a few seconds. When we arrived at the water, the chill was going out of the air, and I reflected that I'd be just getting up at home to spend another day in Mrs. Hawkins' third grade class. The thought of school wasn't a good one, so I decided not to think about it again. We got into the boat, and Pawpaw didn't even make me put on my life jacket. I knew if I fell in, he'd save me, so I wasn't worried. Pawpaw Vernon was just like that. Earlier in the school year, my favorite person report had been written about him. He meant a lot to me, just as any grandchild loves a grandparent, I guess. Now, he'd take the fly swatter or switch to me if I didn't mind, but he loved me. I was his eldest grandson, and I loved him. While we eased our way down the bayou, Pawpaw pointed out all of the birds and the trees that he could name. Some of the things he showed had different names when Daddy pointed them out, so I decided then that Daddy was wrong. If my Pawpaw called something a seagull, then a seagull was what it was supposed to be called. Pawpaw eased the bow of the boat up into a corner of the bayou and turned off the Evinrude motor. Bluish-gray smoke siphoned out as the echo of the previous moment bounced across the marshlands. It was truly a glorious day for fishing, complete with the steady breeze and the bearable sun. It wasn't harsh. Pawpaw laid back after casting a line and got his thermos out with his coffee and began asking me all sorts of things. How Little League was going, did I have a girlfriend yet, was she pretty, and so forth. It was pleasant. We caught few fish. The ones we did catch, besides the hardheads, were nice size, speckled trout mostly, a few flounder. Pawpaw shouted over the sizes of some of the earlier catches in the day, but as the day progressed, he talked less and less. I seemed to get tired earlier on this trip than in the other few we had made together. It seemed that it was just a little bit after lunch when he said, "Well, better get home and let your mama take care of these monsters we caught." He took off his hat and mopped his brow with a bandana. "She might get to worrying about us, wonder where we done went off to." I wondered why she would worry about where we were. It wasn't late, and we told her we'd be back for supper. I didn't question him, though. I was glad to spend as much time with him as I had. Pawpaw pulled up the anchor and splashed it about in the water to get most of the mud off before he started up the boat. Momentarily we were off, the breeze blowing through my hair as I waved to a flatboat we passed. We zoomed through the curves of the bayou with a sense of contentment inside us both. However, it wasn't long before I began to notice strange things going by, scenery I had not noticed earlier in our day. For several minutes I studied the banks left and right and recognized nothing. I looked at Pawpaw Vernon as we rounded the bend, and he didn't say anything. He didn't even look at me. I couldn't tell what he thought, but I had decided that we were lost and going nowhere. "See that over there?" said Pawpaw. "That's a marsh rat." It was sort of in a yell that he spoke, for I had to hear it over the wind and the sound of the motor. "Yes, sir, don't see them often," he said, still avoiding my looks. He began sitting up taller and taller, scouting farther and farther over the grass, over the weeds. I could tell that he had been rubbing more and more sweat from the back of his neck, breathing faster as he did so. Then it happened. We came to a fork in the bayou, one which we had not encountered before. Ahead were two identical waterways leading to destinations unknown in opposing directions. I looked up at my grandfather. He had stopped the boat. He left the motor idling and studied the choice with a worried glow. He was as lost as I had thought, yet he did his best to hide that fact from me. The lulling sound of the motor and the breeze coming over those marshlands were barely audible. It was as if the moment had frozen, my grandfather and I captives within. Tears began to form in my Pawpaw's eyes, the same brown eyes which continued to avoid my knowing look. I reached up and rested my hand on his shoulder. I spoke softly, "Don't cry, Pawpaw." Then I moved my hand and patted his back as we sat still in the afternoon sway of the bayou.